Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to another SOC 100-5 stream over here today. Good to see everyone in the chat. Let's see who's kicking around right now. 30 people in the chat already. Good stuff. Good afternoon, everyone. We have Doug with us over here today. Doug Kaluhio Kalani. I got it right, I think, right? Yeah, pretty good. Take that, Dan. I know you've been watching. You've been commenting on that. Thanks for being with us here today, Doug. How you doing, man?
Hey, good. Appreciate it. Yes, correct pronunciation. I am Douglas Koyokani. First, definitely a shout out to Anthony Level Effect. They've been awesome. This is my third stream with you guys. Off the instructors, knowledgeable. Anthony has been the abundance of help and just knowledge. He's awesome. I don't know how he does it sometimes. But
this is about you, Doug. I appreciate it, but this is about you.
But yeah, so I am Doug Koyokani. I am CEO, founder of Cybersecurity. I have 15 years of cybersecurity experience, 12 years of blue teaming, so defensive cybersecurity, 3 years of red teaming. For those of you that already heard this, background, sorry. But yeah, I love cybersecurity. I've been doing it a long time. I have done 3. Yeah, I just finished my 3rd NATO live fire exercise called Lock Shield. So technically working for NATO, and I'm one of 200 U.S. personnel or U.S. That are invited to be on the team to represent the United States on a NATO exercise. So it's awesome. I know how intense a worst case cyber attack can look, and just everything just is on fire. But yeah, with that being said, this is a little bit of my background. I'm going to add some more stuff to the course content. But yeah, I love doing cybersecurity. I have a family. I've been out of the military. So I was in the Air Force. I was a combat controller, special forces. I got out in 2019. So I have that experience and been having fun and hanging out with Anthony and stuff ever since. So yeah, this is more about Cybercarter. So what we do, and you guys can check out later, what we do is similar to Level Effect. We provide threat defense training. We give that custom simulations, adversary simulations, also bringing to the table the mock scenarios of hey, worst case scenario, this is what's going to happen. If you don't think you'll get hacked, this is what attack from a nation state hacker looks like and feels like. Yeah, so what I am going to be talking about today is threat hunting, but additional surprise and a bonus is we are going to walk through a malware attack. We're going to create a live malware attack. It's going to be a keylogger and also a reverse bind shell. I have the instructions in here as well. And I have my attack box right next to me. So I'm going to be going through it as well so you guys can see it spun up. But yeah, we'll go through it. First things first, obviously be careful. Have a virtual machine spun up, whether you're using VirtualBox, anything. Have a virtual machine or a dummy practice laptop available that you could just wipe if you mess up, anything goes wrong, etc. Yeah. So what are we doing? So what is a keylogger? Keylogger is a piece of malware that's going to record the keystrokes and it's embedded into a machine. Usually it's hidden, or it looks like a application, like it'll look like your internet browser, or something that somebody will frequently click on. So that way it activates. Or as you'll see in this exercise, it'll be through a tunnel. So we drop the payload, and then we already have the tunnel and connection established, and then we can just activate a keylogger from there. But yeah, and then the bind shell. So what's the difference between a bind shell and a reverse bind shell? Well, here, basically, the bind shell is when an attacker makes a connection and connects to the target or the victim from an outbound connection, via open port, etc. Creates a shell. Now they're in, and it's from external to internal. And then reverse bind shell is where the victim or the target is creating a tunnel from the inside out. So they, as you'll see, they're tricked, whether it's a phishing email, whether it's going to a malicious website that looks legit, and they click on the button and they activate a payload, and now it establishes that connection. And the attacker's just there, just waiting. So usually they'll drop payloads on several websites, or they'll do several mass phishing emails, and anybody that's gullible enough to click on it and activate it, bam, they got them. So yeah, that's basically what we're doing, what we're trying to do, why we're doing it, to give you a sense of the attacker's perspective, because as a defender, it really opened up my eyes and made me better as a defender when I started looking at the red teaming perspective. How does a bad guy attack? Why does he do it? What is the end all goal? What are the steps that he is doing in an attack methodology, following the MITRE attack framework, and just understanding the other side of it. When you understand the other side and both sides, then you really are able to pivot, whether you're a red teamer by trade or you're a blue teamer. It really strengthens what you're good at, and makes you better. So yeah, this is you'll need to prepare a laptop for your attack box. Download Kali Linux operating system. I have it here. And so if you're wondering why Kali Linux, why not, I don't know, like Fedora or something like that, Kali Linux is just the go-to operating system, Linux operating system that a lot of red teamers, pen testers, hackers will use, ethical hackers even, because when you install it, it comes pre-installed with a lot of the tools that are based on the MITRE attack framework. So it'll go through like reconnaissance, payload weaponization, etc., cracking of passwords, all that. So that's why. And this will show you how to make it bootable from a USB drive or from a external hard drive, which is what I do. So that way you're not keeping any configuration settings, any data or anything on your actual laptop. And then you could just pull it out, bam, good to go, clean slate if you need to. Yeah, and then using Metasploit, so we'll be using the MSF console, Meterpreter, yeah, and then MSF Venom as well. Send up the attack machine. So first thing you'll do, you have your laptop, you have the instance pulled up, you logged in. Cool. You run your ifconfig, so you know what your IP address is for that instance. And then this is just the practice, so I'll be wiping everything. Next, you want to make sure you're running all of the following commands. Use sudo su. So basically, you want to make sure that you're in the root user. After you know what your IP address is. Once you complete that, this should be bold, but I'll fix that. The command you're going to be running And if you guys can't see it, it's basically MSF Venom -P, and then you're basically using you're telling it it's going to be Windows. You're using Meterpreter, and then you're going to be doing a reverse TCP. It's going to be x86. The platform's Windows, obviously. Executable, and then the L host, the listening host, is going to be it's going to be actually your machine. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good, Doug. We're good. So just do a little bit of a recap here for a moment, everyone. Getting into it over here. We don't have Doug's screen shared up just yet, so we're going to go and we're going to load up the SOC 100-5 content where you can find the threat hunting content live right now. So Doug is going to start walking you through that kind of right from the beginning over there, jumping right into brass tacks. So if any of you want to follow along, you could do this at home if you have your own Kali Linux as well. We don't have the VMs for this course available into the platform just because there's a lot of networking configuration you have to get set up. So if you want to follow along, make sure you have the virtual machine set up. If not, so Eric's asking, CDA student here, can we use the Metasploitable Linux VM in our course? So Eric, and if any of the CDA students are inside of the chat right now, you could go ahead and use your attacker workstation to sort of simulate some of these commands on the other workstations in the environment, but you're going to have to adjust. And for those of you that don't have the attacker workstation in the CDA course, as Doug mentioned, we need to have the Kali Linux set up as the attacker and then another target workstation of choice. But Doug, I'm going to get your screen shared up right now so you can maybe go back to the beginning of that portion over there and give a little moment and start talking more about that. So give me a quick second over here.
You're good.
Let's go ahead and do this, and then we're gonna.
Did you guys miss the beginning as well?
Yeah, I think we kind of missed that little portion as well too. So let's go ahead. I think we can kind of do a double back, just real quick. More about. So Doug is a founder of Cyberkata over here, as he mentioned, veteran as well too, 6 years, ton of experience in industry, 15 years experience in cybersecurity, more specifically across different sectors and such. But I think we can double back quickly to that slide kind of on your intro and then let students know they can get themselves work up as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So go ahead and get that screen. I think I see it right now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, there we go. Nice.
Be showed. Yep.
Oh, that occasional static thing might be back. Yeah, I've been messing around with my setup. Just give me a second.
I see it on Discord.
Yeah. Okay. It might be better now. How's the mic sounding now? Hopefully we get less issues kind of going around. I think you're good to go though, Doug. Yeah, just on my side. So I'm going to move the chat to the corner. And there we go. Nice. Cool. Nice. Doug, all yours.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, so you guys already heard the intro. Ricardo training, provide threat defense and one-on-one provides threat hunting IoC training. Yeah, and then this is the preparing a malware attack. This is what I was kind of going over before, the difference between a bind shell. So this is bind shell, external to internal, and then reverse bind shell, which is what we're doing with reverse shell, which is server. So internal, a target victim is initiating a connection with an attacker on the outbound that's listening on a IP address. So you're going to set your listening host, your L host, to the attack box, and then your port is going to be usually 444 or whatever you set it to. Out in the wild, it'll probably be like 443 or one of the common ports that people are going to stumble upon. So, yep. And then this is the ifconfig. This is the screenshot. I'll clean it up a little bit later too, if you guys can't see. So yeah, MSF Venom, Windows and Meterpreter, reverse TCP, x86 platform is Windows, executable, and then the L host out of the X's, it's going to be whatever your IP address, or for your laptop, your attack box. And then the L port, just for this instance, we're setting it to standard. And then -O. So basically, this is what you're naming the executable. Go ahead and create it. So, I just called it not a payload. .exe. There you go. And then, yeah. So creating a web file server on port 80. Executable name, payload.exe. I gotta get rid of those numbers. And then you're gonna run a Python HTTP server on port 80. Basically, that's gonna show that you're listening to it. So when you're doing that, you're gonna have one of your terminal instances listening, and it's just gonna be on 80 and just listening on that. Yeah, and it'll be listening on 80 for when it's a payload, and it will go ahead and establish that connection. So configuring the Metasploit framework, on the other second terminal session, you're going to run sudo obviously, root access, MSF console, and then use multi-handler. You want to make sure it's using configured payload, generic shell, reverse TCP, because we're doing a reverse shell. So we're going to set the payload to the same. It's going to be the same listening host, the same port. The payload is going to be the same. So Windows Meterpreter, reverse TCP, and then you're going to run exploit to test it to make sure. And if you run exploit, it's going to go ahead and look like this. So it's going to be started it, sending the stage, and then the Meterpreter session 1, or however many times you've done it, it will go ahead and show that number, and it's opened. And then right here, you'll see, this is going to be IP address, and then the 444, and then where it's going to. So. Victim machine, since the victim is going to be my machine, and it's going to be if you're running PNs like Node or anything like that, you might want to pause it. If it's a virtual machine, just making sure that on the virtual machine you have turned off Windows Security or Windows Defender, because that's aggressive, and you'll see why when we go through the threat hunting portion of it. It'll stop all of these downloads and potential threats it sees. So you just want to turn off the real-time protection here, so you can activate it and download this malicious payload. So you want to make sure that you go to the IP address of the listening host. So that's why you are running ifconfig over here, so you know what your listening host is. If you're running a virtual machine, obviously it's going to be different. If it's your personal machine, obviously don't post this on YouTube or anything like that. If you do, scrub it afterwards, just to be safe. And you want to so you're going to go into the IP address, open a new tab on your browser. Think. So I'm going to stop this again. 168. I think this one. See if it shows up. Go payload set. There we go. Now I had to. So the reason why you saw that it wasn't connecting and it just popped up like that is because I had to restart my Python script that I showed you guys earlier. So just to go back. And if I'm going too fast, drop it in the comment. Hey Doug, slow down. Can you go over it, etc. So when we were going back to so this is MSF Venom, this one. So this is what is going to, and obviously, I mean, for this instance, for this exercise, it's super easy. It's not going to be in plain sight out in the wild. It's going to be websites that are camouflaged as Facebook or Gmail or I don't know, like pick your poison, SolarWinds login or CrowdStrike. The interface login, the login page for CrowdStrike. So they're gonna mask it. They're gonna obfuscate it as much as possible. They're gonna pretend and listen. And then go ahead and activate it. There's a start button, a click here button that would be similar to this, like not a payload.exe. And you see I have other stuff in here. So this is going to create a bash file or a bash RC. If I hit the payload, then it's going to open up the payload. And then this is why you have to disable Windows security and Defender, so that way it allows you to download it. So there you go. Now the payload.exe, the executable, that's the malware payload. So that was executed, that was installed, downloaded by a victim, by a target. And so the second session, and as soon as you do that, you should start seeing traffic. You should start seeing on that one Python, the terminal session that has the Python script running, you should see that you get a response back. And then I think I have it up here also that's running. Sending died. Right here opened. So on this one, you have the multi-handler, and this is where you're going to go ahead and perform the exploit, and then you're going to go ahead and open up the shell. So this one is you're running this is where you set the payload also, and then you ran the exploit, just verify, and then this is preparation. As we went through, this is establishing Meterpreter session right here. Once that's established, now this is the exploit here. And as soon as the victim activates the shell, once they download it, so once they've downloaded it, I'll activate it from here, from the downloads. Show you guys. Not payload. I'll activate that, and then that should, it'll pop up with a response, and now you should see this, the Meterpreter. I got a pop-up, sorry. Okay. You guys good? Okay. Everybody good? Everybody following? Am I going too fast? Yep. Cool. All right. Quick recap would be cool. Yeah, sure. Queen, which part? The whole thing, or what? I guess I can recap basically where we're at, what stage we're at. So we are on part 4. We went ahead and did was part 1. We were basically just setting up the attack box, and knowing why we're doing a reverse shell versus a bind shell. So a bind shell isn't going to work if let's say your victim or your target is a corporation or an enterprise. If they have aggressive firewalls and they have layered security tools, trying to do a bind shell, unless you're sneaky and you can bypass all of the firewalls and all of the security like the SIMs and SOARs, it's going to get detected. It's going to be you're just going to hit a brick wall. So with bind shells, most of the time it's like trying to go through barriers, and it's like, well, it's easier if you have a victim or you convince somebody to click on a button or go to a site, and now they establish a connection with you. So because it's not going to flag the firewalls, because it's somebody internally trying to go out to the internet. So most of the time people will allow internal users and personnel to go out to the internet, obviously, to do their jobs. So it'll just look like allow traffic. So especially if nothing is like a malicious website, you just connect it to, and now Wireshark and all of the tools are just alarm bells everywhere. So that was step 1, why we're doing a reverse shell versus a bind shell, and then setting up your Kali Linux. So installing Kali Linux, why Kali Linux is useful in this instance, and also in general for ethical hackers, pen testers, red teamers, and just the preparation phase. What commands are we going to be running? Why are we running it? Making sure we're in root access when we're doing it. And then part 2 is configuring Metasploit, setting the listening host. So you want to make sure the IP address of the box that you're using is listening on a port. For this example, it's port 4444. And yeah, just setting everything up and staging the attack. So that way we have everything ready, and then we simulate in part 3 the victim or the target is going to this website, and they click on this thing that they may not know like what it is, but they accidentally clicked on it and they download it, and now we're going to see what happens when they activate or double click on the downloaded executable. So now the payload.exe on this website. Make sense? Where can I get the link to the course? No. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Jordan got him over there. Interesting, though. I didn't see his comment pop up on the Restream chat on the side. I see it on Twitch, but not on the multi-stream.
Yeah,
So,
I'm on Twitch, and I see it. Okay. Yeah, cool. No problem. Thank you, Doug. Very helpful. Awesome. Yeah. So where did I leave off? Part 4. So we're here. Oh yeah, and then so once you see the victim, obviously it's going to be you on the victim machine. When you click on the downloaded executable here, you just double click it. You're not going to see anything like pop up and be like, oh, hey, you're successful, unless you want to put that message in there. But on your attack box, on the attack virtual machine, you will see that it started the reverse TCP handle on whatever the IP address is at 4444. and then sending stage, and it'll show the number of bytes that it's sending. In this instance, it's in the screenshot, it's 17,005, 175,000, sorry, 686 to this IP address, and then the session was opened. And then after that, you'll see Meterpreter. So you should see like this right here, this Meterpreter. And so the next stage is going to be starting the keylogger, because you have a connection. The victim already, downloaded the executable. They double clicked on it, so they activated it. And now the payload is open. It's creating this established tunnel, and you're also listening. So now you can go in and you can do a keylogger if you want. And so if you don't know, a useful command is help. So you could just do help, and then it will pop up with all the commands to give you, you can run this, you can run that, etc. The command we're looking for is under user interface commands. It's going to be the keyscan dump we're using, keyscan start, and keyscan stop. So we're going to obviously start the session, and that's the keylogger, basically. That's another name for a keylogger. Start that, and it should say starting the keystroke sniffer. An example is, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna do user. And then if you do a keyscan dump, it will show you all of the keystrokes. So yeah, I could probably, I don't know if I can show you guys, but I don't know if you can see it. But yeah, so right here, as it's live, but down here is where you'll see kind of the syntax. And I also got a screenshot for that reason too. So you'll see it kind of look like this. It'll say dumping captured keystrokes, user shift, help me log in, shift pass, and then shift colon, log me in please, shift, and then it'll be the exclamation 2 or whatever the password is, and then shift @ so symbol for this screenshot. And then down here I have what I just typed in, basically. So yeah, I mean that's evidence right there, live, of a keylogger doing its job. And that's what happens out in the wild. That's what happens, and how people can get their credentials stolen easy. And then if you want to stop it, because let's say they're typing a lot of different keystrokes and a lot of different letters and characters, then you just do keyscan _stop, and it'll stop recording, basically. So it'll stop tracing all of the characters and keystrokes. Yeah, so that's a keylogger, and that's your first malware. Now, since we have an established connection and they haven't discovered the payload and the executable yet, and they haven't destroyed it or remediated it, and taken action because it's maybe not suspicious to them yet, we can go ahead and do a reverse shell. So we'll create a shell, because we already have a connection initiated from the target, from the internal user. So all you would do is on your attack box, you just do shell. Shell, and then it creates a shell, and you should see a C, colon, and then /, then it'll be like users or wherever you're at. and then whatever your name is, if you have created an admin name, and then it'll be in downloads or wherever the payload is. So tracking, everybody good? Following?
Give a quick minute over there, see if anyone has a question that they want to reach out with. Quick little recap or anything. So Doug has his laptop set on the side over there. He's running the attacks live right now. And then he is connecting to the victim machine where the attack is currently happening. If no questions, we can continue on.
Yeah. Okay. So on the attack box side, you can go ahead and run the command start MS Edge exe. So since we created that shell, you just go ahead and start MS Edge. And you guys will actually see this happen. There you go. So MS Edge instance just popped up here. And then, so the next thing I want to do, just so I can show you guys, obviously, and, you know, oops, sorry, hold on. So you guys can follow along. So MS Edge here. And then the next command we're running is the keyboard send, but you have to get out of the shell. So you have to exit the shell. Otherwise, it's going to throw errors saying like it's not recognized, as I showed here. So it's saying like keyboard send is not recognized as a command, you know, or batch file, etc. So you just exit out of it, and then you go ahead and just run this, the keyboard send. Because you already started a instance of the MS Edge, it's not going to exit out of that. So you exit out of the shell instance just for a while. That is keyboard send, Google. Oops. And then I will go back to this. And bam, there you go. You guys can see that. And then, okay, well, I have google.com ready to go. How do I actually activate it and get there? Well, that's easy. You want to do a key event. So I'll show you guys so you guys can follow along. So you're going to launch google.com. This is what you're trying to do. You use the keyboard send, google.com. It's going to automatically put in google.com for the address. And then you want to use key event. And so that can either, you'll see some options as this screenshot shows. So you'll see options like 13 is enter. It sends the enter command, and then 17 is the down key. So it goes down, or, you know, you have other key events that do other functions like go up, etc. The one obviously we are using is key event 13 because we want to enter and activate the action that we have for google.com. So I hit that, bam, activates the action. And this is an example of this could be something more malicious. So instead of google.com, I could have somebody redirected to a machine in the middle, like a proxy server or something like that. Or let's say I want the victim to go to one of the locations I have where I've dumped passwords, or I go ahead and isolate machines. So I can have them go anywhere I want, basically, because it's an example showing that I have control over the machine because I have a shell created. So I now can go ahead, start Microsoft Edge instance. I can go ahead and shut down their computer. I can go ahead and take over their computer. I can go ahead and start certain applications. I can go into event logs, etc. So on and on, on and on and on. But this is just like a non-aggressive, easy way to show you that this works, and this is why it works, and this is how powerful a shell being established on a target machine is. And you guys get to see it live of what's the result of these commands, what it looks like from the attacker's perspective, what they're doing, and what happens on the victim's machine. So yeah, and then that's the malware attack. And then if you want to just get out of it, I just do exit. And then if you want to just kill the whole entire MSF instance and session, you just exit again, and it'll just back you out of everything. So yeah, that was a pretty quick rundown of two malware attacks and creating a reverse shell. Any questions? You guys still good?
Was everyone clear with exactly like the key commands being sent over? I think you talk a little bit more about that if anyone has any questions on that. Did everyone understand how the session was able to essentially hijack, send remote commands over and initiate them, and also capture keystrokes? Or is everyone very clear on the attack? And feel free to ask any questions. Seriously, like it's
if you guys
it's
are
not like
this is advanced too. Like this is not like the intro. Hey, this is what Meterpreter is. But I figured like because this is a 2-hour session, I can show you guys like, hey, this is how an attack happens, and this is where threat hunting is going to come into play, because you've just seen how an attack actually has been activated, and now an attack is still happening, and now threat hunting is like, oh, you already are behind the curve, you're behind because an attack is in progress and they have an active shell. So now you have to do threat hunting, you have to do forensics, you have to do investigation, gather all the evidence, and now you have to try to kill this session and the shell. So
looks like Karina's looking for a little recap over there as well.
okay.
Yeah. I think Easy is following along, sort of, running errands, but yeah, all good.
Okay.
A little recap at a high level, maybe?
Yeah. So what we did, I went through, part 1, 2, 3. 3 was preparing the victim's machine, the target machine. Part 4 was setting up the Meterpreter session, basically deploying the payload and the attack box, and then establishing the session. So setting up this instance, this website, the victim goes to it, they download the payload executable, and then from there, obviously, they wouldn't see this, but you would go ahead, open the file, and then they would go ahead and, let's say they accidentally did something to activate this executable. So, and this is the malicious payload right here. So they activated it, therefore establishing the connection. And now the attacker is listening, and as soon as the victim or the target went ahead and activated that payload executable, bam, it allowed me a connection, and now I can listen in. And the first attack we did was a keylogger. Reason why we did a keylogger as the first attack is because I want to see if, as soon as they open the shell, if they are putting in any credit card numbers, any bank account statements, routing numbers, etc. If they are if they're putting in their, I don't know, like email address, like username, password, that's what I'm really going after, and I want to capture those credentials as soon as possible once I have a shell established, because they don't know that I have a keylogger running in the background. They just activated this thing accidentally. They don't know that it's malicious, so it activated the connection. now I'm running Keylogger to go ahead and capture credentials and keystrokes. As you see here, there's the username and password. And then, dumping the keystrokes here, and then I go ahead and stop it from recording. And now I'm like, okay, I have the username and password for whatever the website is or the login credentials. And then now I can go ahead and create a shell. Now I want to go ahead and create a shell so that way I can go in and start doing some malicious stuff. Or in this instance, in this exercise, the second malware we're going to do is, that we did was basically demonstrating that we have control over this target's machine, over their computer. And I showed that by starting MS Edge, so starting a Windows or a Microsoft browser, so in that browser. And then I started Windows Edge or exe, and then from there I sent the command of google.com, and then I went ahead and entered or activated that command, that action, and it took me to google.com, and I showed that live. And that was a soft way or a simple way of demonstrating that I have control over the target machine and the victim's machine. Obviously, they're not going to, a real bad guy is not going to just go to google.com or facebook.com. He's going to go ahead and run applications. He's going to go ahead and try to shut down the machine, or he's going to go in and activate certain files or directories to try to get information, or whatever his intention is. He now has control over that machine because he activated the shell, and now he's running commands. And now he can either send a copy of assets, files, directories, account numbers to his machine as a text file or a .md, a markdown file. Or he could go ahead and just redirect the victim to an alternate location, like whether it's a proxy server or whether it's another location. So yeah.
Cool. Another little clarification from Karina over there. So did the payload executable contain commands to establish the reverse bind shell?
No. Well, the payload executable allowed the connection, so established the connection, and so it didn't automatically create the bind shell. When the connection was established, and I showed it earlier, when they activated that payload executable, see it right here. So this will pop up. You'll see sending stage, Meterpreter session opened, and then you'll get this Meterpreter. And this is from the bad guy's perspective, from the attack box. So you'll see Meterpreter here, and that means that the session's been opened. You have the connection established. And then from there, you can go ahead and we create the keylogger first, and then we create the shell, as you see here in this screenshot. When I go ahead and ran shell command on the attack box, that's when you officially create the reverse shell, the reverse bind shell. So that establishes that shell. Now I can go ahead and I have a direct control over that target or victim's machine. And that's when I went ahead and started Microsoft Edge, executable, the browser. And then I was able to go to google.com, as you see here. So keyboard send, google.com, and then the event code to basically activate the action. Yep. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Everybody else good? Yep. Much better now. I'm glad. Yeah. So 12:55. If you guys want to take, like 5-minute coffee break, we'll go into threat hunting next. And this is going to be at the instance of, okay, well, the attack happened, and now we have to identify and gather evidence that, hey, you know, we see some suspicious things going on, but let's make sure it's an actual attack. And let's do some like investigating, and you know, let's do some reconnaissance, defer, adversary analysis, malware analysis, scripting. Well, we kind of already did scripting, and threat hunting. So that's kind of the techniques we're going to be running in threat hunting, because this is what a SOC analyst, you know, is going to be doing. This is what a cybersecurity defender does. They utilize all of those techniques, and they sometimes are behind the curve, behind the action after attack has already started or after something was already performed, whether it's ransomware, etc. So yeah, if you guys want to take 5 minutes, go, you know, bio break, coffee, water, etc. So
Coffee time sounds good. Yeah, cool. We can pause over here. I think I can throw a little timer on the stream as well too. Let me figure that out 1 second. I'll keep the chat up as well. Okay, we're back in action, everyone. Hope everyone had a little bit of a nice break, got some coffee, stretch your legs, stood up a little bit. So we're back. Doug, welcome back as well too. Let's start diving right into it. I think you're muted actually.
Thanks. Yeah,
there you go.
Thanks.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanted to ask Anthony, was there anything, from you being a red teamer, did you have any other input? Was everything pretty accurate? So
Yeah, I think it was pretty accurate. I think a lot of this is demonstration tooling, right? We're using Meterpreter, we're using some like off-the-shelf tools, which is really good for kind of like the pen testing space, proof of concept. Red teaming side, you might have to get a little bit more crafty, so it gets even more advanced in this. So a lot more like custom tooling and such. But the concept of what we've done here that Doug has presented to you is a very I wouldn't say it's like the ultra common attack pattern, but it is a commonly used attack pattern of being able to establish a remote connection, capture keystrokes, send them, initiate them, and sort of manipulate and work with victim without them knowing. So what you've seen is accurate to what is very possible and does happen, and you just got to get under the hood. So nothing really to add other than I think the threat actors and red teamers get even more crafty and more custom with it. Which is well beyond what we need to demonstrate today. But I just kind of want to mention that. So, I don't think you're going to see a lot of Meterpreter out there as like an official attack unless the person doesn't really care about being caught. And they're just kind of like, whatever, I'm going to make noise. It's noisy. It's a common type of process and sequence of process connections and threads that you might see that Meterpreter might use, that those might already be configured for detection tools. So really great to work with for adversary emulation like this and threat hunting to understand how your attack surface can respond. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Looking real good, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like a last side note on that is I at the Watch Shields exercise, I saw the red team, once they were already in, I mean, they didn't care about being loud because they only had a foothold. So they used Meterpreter and they dropped a CS5 raid.co, and basically they dropped a rootkit in as a kernel object, which means that it was embedded in kernels, and it was in different locations in about 7-8 different machines, and the rootkit was nasty. It was spawning like child daemons and like basically PIDs that was suppressing our MDE sensors and our security tools. So every time a security tool was like, "Oh, hey, I see you are trying to be loud and going in with Meterpreter. Let me try to block you and stop you from doing the bad thing." And it was like, nope, the child daemons were just stopping and suppressing it. So the rootkit was just going through and just destroying everything. It was nasty.
Yeah. When you're in kernel space, right? You just have such more.
Yeah, it's awful. And then meanwhile, we're just getting hit with like hundreds of other attacks. But yeah, it's fun. I digress.
I think it'll be fun for a future demonstration, maybe a more advanced threat hunting adversary emulation course that maybe we might be working on, right, Doug? Something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you just get Anthony angry enough, he just starts destroying everything, just dropping hits everywhere.
I don't have my Tims ready.
But yeah, we do have something cooking that's coming up for you guys. Stay tuned, and yeah, it'll be fun. And then also, I'm gonna be bringing Anthony to the next Watch Shield. So
let's do it.
He's gonna be super excited and like a kid in a candy store. Anyways, so threat hunting, yay! Attack already happened. You guys saw the payload drop. The executable is activated. There's a shell. There's bad things going on. This is going to be, identifying threats. It's going to be simulating, after payload, etc. Attacker already got a foothold. We are going to be gathering as much, evidence as possible. But you always, in the real world, like as you're in your careers in being a SOC analyst, you want to be proactive and you want to start putting in certain common scripts like that you will see, like, Meterpreter or rootkits, or if somebody's trying to do a DLL attack or DLL injection, that means they're trying to probably compromise system 32 or system 64 startup processes that happen when Windows starts up in the background. But if you don't pay attention to that and you don't see it, or if your security tools don't detect it, well, now you just have a DLL injection, and it's now, you have a possible injection point and malware inside, and it could have been prevented with a script that you put inside one of your security tools, whether it's gray matter, SIMSOAR, etc. But yeah, so you want to pay attention to indicators of attack is basically the short, sweet of it. So we know something suspicious occurred. Can't determine that it was an attack because we don't have the facts and evidence gathered. So we're going through these techniques as a defender. We'll be using VirusTotal and Kaspersky, and then Wireshark, just to keep it simple. I think in a later stream, I'll probably show you guys how to do, or maybe I'll just put in here, the MDE live response, which is pretty effective, but it's time consuming because you're creating a remote shell to one specific host. So you can only do like, one or maybe two hosts at a time if you have two computers and you're dual monitoring or, dual tasking. So you can only triage one or two hosts at a time with live response. But you can go ahead and do a lot of investigation. You can dig stuff up using MDE sensors. But let's say you don't, and this is your home environment, and you just got attacked, and you just have free tools. If you have Wireshark, it's going to be a lot of traffic because also the stream, but you can go ahead and filter out for a specific IP address. So for this, I know that this is the bad IP address, but if we want to go back, this URL address is there. But let's say that wasn't the URL address. That wasn't blatantly obvious right there. Then we could go into Wireshark. We could do like a capture. I would take off the filter, but there's a lot of traffic that was generated. So there's a lot, as you can see down here. The packets just keep increasing because of the streaming and everything. But so we see right here the source port's 4444, and we know that was when we established the attack. That's the port we used. But you see source initiation, so you see handshakes and connection attempts being created from the 153.153 to the 212, which is the victim or target machine. And then also I have some screenshots here. So this is Wireshark. If you haven't messed around with Wireshark before, I can drop the download in here. But Wireshark's free open source tool. It's really good at detecting network traffic, packets, doing packet captures, packet inspections. You can go ahead, if you're familiar with networking, you can go ahead and see three-way handshakes, four-way handshakes being established. You can see like, SYN, SYNAX, reset, fin flags, all of the different flag types, and be able to identify like, oh, okay, this is a reset, this is a push, this is a ACK, this is a reset, or a fin. So you can see all of that using Wireshark. It's one of the most popular ones. I have a lot of experience using it. But there's others out there. There's like T-Shark. I think like ZenMap or something like that. not Zmap, but there's others out there. If you don't like Wireshark. But yeah, so for this, we're using Wireshark. The capture that I did, just to make it easy on you guys, so that we're seeing it, is, we see 192.168.168.212.212, which is the target victim machine, making a connection to 153, and we see it on this port, 24444 port, which we know was what we used to go ahead and create the connection and that maintain that shell and that connection. And then you see down here, I highlighted the connection establish request. Connection establish request, it was on the server port. And then it also shows, I think it shows that it was successful. Since set, checksum, and then I think it's the next one. There we go. Let's try and get out of it. Acknowledgement. Pure. Oh, the same one. I think it said it was acknowledged. But you'll see that when you run it. So if you have Wireshark, I would suggest spinning up Wireshark when you start capturing the packets, when you and filter for the IP address when you're running the attacks and creating the shells, whether it's the keylogger or the shells, and you'll be able to see it more clearly as well too. You'll see a connection attempts. But even if we didn't see that, we see that there is a lot of conversations between 153 and 212, like 212. So why are there a lot of acknowledgements and then resets and then pushes and then retransmissions? Why is this happening? So that's one instance. That's one evidence of, okay, well, maybe we should look at that IP address. And so from there, we can use Microsoft Security or Defender. But even with that, let's say the victim, you want to also make sure that you gather the URL address. So, in this instance, we have the URL address, the website address, because this is what the sketchy site that they went to. And then in the real world, in the enterprise environment, you'll also have a copy of this. Even if it was blocked, it'll be recorded, or there'll be a alert on like MDE, like, hey, this website tried downloading, or this person tried downloading this executable, which is known malicious or suspicious. I blocked it, but this is what the file name is, or the executable, and they'll actually have it in like the sandbox, and then you can grab the actual payload and you can throw into like Joe's sandbox, or for this example, we're going to use VirusTotal. So we have the downloaded executable, the payload. So we can go ahead and go here. Oh, well, before that, it's not really out of order, but I guess we can stay in order. We'll go to Windows Security. So Windows Defender. We can go ahead and do a quick scan. And it'll just, hey, let's see if there's other malicious files or executables or payloads that were dropped in other locations. Because also one of the things, you can't assume that a user went to a website and they clicked on it and they said they only clicked on one executable or payload, and that was the only thing that showed up in their downloads. And you can't trust that that's 100% accurate. Like, what if that one executable spawned child processes or other, smaller processes or executables from there, or it went out and infected other applications? Well, now the other applications are infected as well. So now you have to triage that, and you have to stop that from spreading. So you can't just trust like, oh, it's just one file that's bad or one bad malicious payload. No, you have to inspect and gather all of your evidence before you go out and just start triaging stuff. So the quick scan showed that this is, yeah, of course. So this is the only one that it detected. It's a Trojan, Windows 32, Meterpreter, PZ, or what level severe, obviously. Says it's active. This is the date of the scan. So categories Trojan is dangerous and executes commands from an attacker. And this is, where the location of that executable is that it's saying. And then there's the PID, which is pretty cool too. So if you guys are familiar with like shell commands, if you want to kill a process, you need the process ID, and usually the command is kill space -9, and then you have the PID, the process ID identifier. So you just grab that and then hit enter, bam, you kill that process. But if you don't know what that process is doing, you just kill the process, and then 5 seconds later, it's just going to start back up again. So what's the use of killing that one specific process? You know what I mean? That's part of also gathering all the evidence, gathering information about what you're dealing with, what is the malware. And right now, we're taking it slow and easy in a real world scenario. When you're working at a SOC, when you're working at big corporations, time is of the essence. You need to act quickly. You can't afford to, figure out on the fly, where you go and stuff like that, because you're going to see a lot of alerts, a lot of things popping off. A lot of things are going to be yelling at you, but you need to just focus and figure out, okay, I need a method attack. I need to do 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. Cool. And like your internal checklist, like, where am I going? What am I checking first? What's the most critical? Okay, is it an active attack? What type of attack is it? Is it going to spread? Well, if it's an active attacker, they probably have a shell. They probably have a connection. Can we stop that connection before they start dropping more payloads, before they start pivoting to other machines and start trying to perform evasive maneuvers? It's important. Time, you have to act quickly when there's an active attack. So I've also defended against 3 APT attacks, and they suck. And yeah, and it's hard. It's not easy. It's very high level. It's stressful, but also that's why I do lock shields for real fire or live fire exercises, because it is more effective, and it's designed to be super stressful and worst case scenario is happening, like to a point where it's unrealistic, but it prepares you for, okay, well, you're super stressed and there's so many different things. How do you figure out what's the priority? And that's what we're doing here, and that's why I'm talking about it. So of course, real incident, it won't be as easy to find. This location, we can now investigate the pieces of payload. So what we have so far, what we've gathered is we have the URL address, we have the website address here, we have the IP address, a suspicious IP address that we know is legit. That's the bad guy. That's the attack box. This one, and we have the payload that we went ahead and ran a scan with Windows Security, Windows Defender. It found, hey, we only found this one instance in a quick scan, and so we have the location of that too, of where that executable is. So we have those 3 things. Cool. What do we do now? Well, we're going to use VirusTotal, Kaspersky. real world scenario, enterprise environments, you would use a SIM tool. You could use like CrowdStrike, MDE, Velociraptor, whatever your company is using or whatever you suggest they use. So yeah, you want to use those security tools, those EDR tools, threat intelligence tools to go ahead and gather as much information as possible. Um, if you are allowed, I mean, I would also just pull up MITRE ATT&CK framework and just look it up there too. Or if you have the CVE, if it's associated with a CVE or CVSS. So like CrowdStrike, MDE, Sentinel, they will also provide you with a CVSS or CVE of the if it's a vulnerability, and they'll give that score, and then you can also look it up that way if it's a known score, if it's a threat associated with nation states, etc. Um, but you could also look up the attack queue if it's like an injection. You could also see where it falls on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Is it a malware that allows for credential access? Okay, yes. Or is it forced authentication, etc.? So you can search here, and it helps you better focus in on this is what I'm dealing with. This is the type of malware it is, and this is what it's doing. Um, and this is how I need to triage it, how I need to remediate the issue. But for this, we're gonna do. Let's try the URL address. Drop this here, and I've already dropped the screenshots also here, but we're gonna do it live. So we'll do this. VirusTotal is showing that no security vendors flag this as malicious, obviously. That if you go to details, it's going to be, I think it shows, private IP address, first submission, etc. Obviously, it's not bad. It's mine. So these are all the vendors, security vendors, showing coin. Cool. Let's see what Kaspersky says. And there's other tools out there. I mean, I just use these because these are pretty fast as far as it gives you results pretty quick. VirusTotal is pretty good as far as freeware, open source, intelligence tool, get your information quickly. Reserved IP address, who is lookup. It's saying it's reserved for private internet, obviously. So we know we can't get any information from there because it's not reported as bad, and we all know why. So let's see if we can drop the payload and see what this says. We'll drop it in Kaspersky, and then we will do file. We'll do it also in VirusTotal. From the upload. While that's doing this thing, do you guys have questions? Good time. I'm joining the stories from NATO die. Cool. Yeah. So going through the screenshots, VirusTotal. Okay. Yep. So it looks like it's still analyzing it, but it identified this as malicious. It's saying it's Trojan. It's awful. It's like reported by 59 out of 72 security vendors flagged it as malicious. It's just the worst. This is malicious. Like, oh my God, you are infected, and this is what this is screaming at. It's basically like, oh my God, this is a Trojan horse. This is awful. And yeah, so I think what you'll see too is like Trojan Windows 32 shell. You'll see that a lot because that's what it is. So it's a Meterpreter, it's a shell creation, it's a Trojan because it's executable. That was activated on action, which is a click. So yeah, Trojan. Yep. So that's saying it's bad. It's awful. This is giving you the hash right here. It's also saying it's bad, and I can confirm that's the SHA-256. See, yeah, numbers match. So that's the 256. And then if you want, you guys could even copy this, and then you could throw it into like Cyber Chef or something like that if you want. But honestly, if you guys have MDE and this is a work environment or like an enterprise environment, I would just copy this SHA-256 or the IP address or both. And then if you go to MDE and you go to settings, and then there's a spot where you can put indicators, and that's indicators of compromise. And I think the limit is like 15,000 reports you can do, or, you know, different SHA or IP addresses you can put in. So you would just add that to the indicators under the hash option. And then, yeah, it would just flag it. And whenever MDE or Azure Sentinel sees that specific SHA, that specific hash, it will go ahead and block it from even trying to do anything. So you shouldn't see it, you know, trying to do anything in the future. But yeah. So this is saying like Trojan here. If you click on this, it opens up a link. They go ahead and give you a little synopsis, like what is Trojanware, you know, what does that mean? What's a class of Trojans, Trojan viruses, Trojan malware? What does it do, etc. You know, why is it called that? All that stuff. What is Windows 32? Description, you know, what is it trying to do? Well, it's used to destroy, block, modify, copy data, blah, blah, blah. So as you guys see, and then the top 10 countries that Kaspersky, based on their intelligence, says uses it. So 21%, almost 22% of the Trojan malware or different varieties of it come from Russia. India uses it, blah, blah, blah. So with most attacked users, yeah. So yeah, and then that's, so it analyzes it. It's saying it's all bad, it's awful, and it gives you the hash. Cool. So we have that information there. We know it's bad. It's a malicious payload. There's information there. So we have two ways of dealing with it. We can go ahead and we can well, technically three. We can go ahead and quarantine it, which would just isolate it, and it wouldn't really do anything until you decide to take further action. Or you can go ahead and do scan options, and then you can do Microsoft Defender antivirus, or you can, yeah, you can go ahead and do this, and then it will also remove the threat. So it'll scan, it will go ahead, look for if it infected anything else, and then it'll remove the malware, and then it'll just restart the machine. So you could do it that way through Defender. If you have, you know, another tool that you've purchased for personal use, you could use that as well. As long as it's not going to be super aggressive. Like if it's digging inside your kernel and stuff like that in BIOS, maybe don't don't do that. You don't want anything that's super aggressive, but you do want to make sure that it goes through all of the partitions, all of the directories you have, to find any traces of the malware or anything that infected it. The other option is that you can just go to that location and just destroy the file. This one I wouldn't suggest because, like I said before, you know, if I just destroy and delete this file, obviously I know this file is fine. This is the only instance, you know, this is me creating it. But if, you know, if it's real world in home use or in the actual enterprise and corporations, you don't want to just destroy a file. One, because you need to make sure you have screenshots. Take screenshots of what the file name is, where it's located. So, you know, obviously making sure you get the full path, do a screenshot of it, gather all of your evidence first, put it in, like a OneNote for your team, because you're all going to be sharing evidence. You're going to all be dumping data and evidence into this document. So that way, if it needs to escalate up to a chain of command to, the CISO or executives, they also are aware of like, oh, this is heavy, this is intense, this could cost us money, or we need to shut down like plants or some sites because of this, so it doesn't spread. So you need evidence to go ahead and back your findings and your judgment call. And then also you need to protect yourself, like, hey, I found this thing, I did my job, and I found it here, and this is proof that it's right there. So do screenshots. You don't want to just delete a malicious file even if you found it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Triage it. Like, obviously isolate the threat. If you have to just isolate the whole machine, you could use like CrowdStrike, MDE, etc., Velociraptor, and you can isolate machines and just put them in the dark zone, and triage the threat that way, and then deal with the malware and the payloads that are just contained on that machine. But gather all of your evidence first, so 100% it didn't spread anywhere, and that all of the locations of where the malware has touched or the payloads are. So you have that, and then you could just delete it out. And then the next thing I'll touch on, I don't have a live example spun up yet. I could probably drop one at a later stream, but I did drop like the instructions basically for MDE Live. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. It's the sensors. So you have the sensors on the workstations, on the endpoints. This is what is endpoint, what is MDE, what does it do? What is the live response? Why is it effective? Well, live response, basically, as I was saying before, it allows you to start up a remote shell session, like a direct connection to that specific machine. And, you can multitask and have like two of them up on two different computers, but usually it's just one at a time. And I would say 9 out of 10 times that I've done it, I've isolated the machine first. Sorry. I've isolated the machine first because you don't want to take a chance. It's better to, as long as it's a controlled environment and you're allowed to isolate the machine from any network connections or external connections, it's better to do that, because if there is a live connection, as you see here, like if there's a shell connection, as soon as you isolate that machine, it kills those shells, it kills those connections to any external attackers or external machines. But as you also saw here, if they've already dropped a payload, well, that payload and that malware is still there. And if that payload or malware also does other functions in addition to creating a connection, a remote connection, or creating a remote connection to the attacker, and it also has another function that, okay, well, after 15 minutes of sitting there, it also goes ahead and starts destroying everything in that directory that it's sitting at. Well, then that's bad. Like, you have 15 minutes and then it just starts destroying all of the data in the directory it's in. So you need to go ahead and you need to isolate it. If it destroys the directory, okay, well, that's one thing you're dealing with, versus you're dealing with a malicious explosive payload, and you're also dealing with an active attacker that has a direct connection into your machine. So it's better to prioritize the threats, and I would rather deal with this explosive payload that's just destroying directories and folders and groups and user accounts and stuff like that, and deal with that, than a live attacker that obviously knows what they're doing, and they're pivoting. Now they're going to different machines. Now they're getting root access or admin accounts, and they're creating admin accounts. Now I have like so many different files to put out at the same time. So you need to prioritize what is the biggest threat, what is the immediate threat that is happening. That's why I said like 9 times out of 10, I've isolated the machines first using like MDE, Velociraptor, CrowdStrike. They all have that function. Dragos even, they have that function. So you can isolate machines and cut them off from any external communications or connections and shells. And then you deal with what are the other pieces of malware or payloads that were dropped. Some of Go ahead.
Hey, Doug, we just got a question over here from Easy, actually, before you get into the next section over there, asking, how do you find other instances beside hashes? Like if the malicious activity is fileless. So maybe something more like in memory, or even the rootkit you mentioned, like living in kernel space as well, too. So maybe talking a little bit about that if you have something to kind of think about.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't have MDE, if you are just using like, Windows Defender, etc., you could do a full scan. If it's, let's say you got a rootkit on your personal machine, which is awful, you should be doing like backups, I would say, doing incremental backups, doing, saving your personal laptops, like saving it to different backups, like practicing the 3-2-1 rule. 3 forms of backups. 2 of them are in cloud instances, whether it's 2 different cloud services like AWS, and then you have Microsoft Sentinel or Azure cloud that you're backing up to. So back up your data, 2 cloud instances, and then one of them is a physical remote backup. So like an external hard drive, like whether it's a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, whatever. But having like at least, I would say, a month, maybe like every 2 weeks, like doing a full backup on that external drive or that physical backup copy. And then so you should be doing that already, even for your personal devices, because what if your computer explodes or you lose all your information? Well, if you don't have backups, well, you can't really pull it down. So you should be doing backups. If you have a rootkit, honestly, if I got a rootkit on this machine, I would just wipe it. I would try to find the person that put it there. I would try to go after them as safely as possible and aggressively as possible. But honestly, if you have a rootkit and it's deeply embedded, just wipe your whole entire machine and then just restore it from a previous backup on a new machine. Once you have verified that this machine is clean, there's no residual, rootkit binaries or daemons laying around at the kernel level, etc. If it's in a work environment, you should have backups. Obviously, there should be backup processes. There should be a backup disaster plan or disaster recovery plan in place that your company has. And then you also should be, you should have MDE. So MDE, Azure Sentinel, and then they can do like full scans and they can go ahead and find where it's embedded. If you have a rootkit, it's going to be hard for even MDE and some of these tools to find it, but there'll be certain indicators. Like the chances that you run across a rootkit being randomly dropped in your company or enterprise is pretty rare, but it could still happen. I mean, because the people that would probably be dropping that are nation state, like hackers or APTs, because you have to also maintain persistence for like 6 months. You have to make sure nobody's catching on to your presence, and you have to have that admin or root access, and then you can go ahead and drop a rootkit like when you decide to be loud. Like I said earlier, with Anthony, they were using like Meterpreter in the exercise, in the NATO exercise. So they were using Meterpreter, which is loud. And also Anthony said, it's very loud. It's like as soon as you activate it, like all of the alerts, all of the security tools let you know, like, hey, somebody's using Meterpreter, they're dropping MSF Venom, they're running the script, blah, blah, blah. But if I'm already inside of your environment, already maintained a foothold and persistence for 6 months, and I'm inside the company on a specific workstation and I have root access, I'm just going to be loud. I've already gotten all the information I want, like whether it's critical assets, banking information, whatever, like social security numbers, directory lists of who works there, all of their credentials, blah, blah, blah. I've gotten all that stuff and I have a copy of it, probably as a .md, a markdown file, text file, all that stuff. In the alternate location, it's already copied out. And so now I can be loud and destructive if I really want to be like, forget you guys, and I just want to cause chaos. Then I'll use Meterpreter, I'll run the script, and then I'll just drop like the rootkits or whatever I want to do, as far as like I could do like a Hydra virus or something like that, where it spreads out, creates child viruses or malware, and then it just keeps multiplying until you kill the root process, the root malware. So there's different things that you can drop and it'll just cause this destruction. But to find it, you should have indicators, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you should see it. Like dropping a rootkit is not very subtle. It's not like going through ISPs and stuff like that and firewalls. You know what I mean? It's very loud.
That's what I was going to say, right? Is so easy. I know you've done your SOC 100 training and such as well too. And in SOC 100-2, we actually get you into this. But so if you're dealing with things that are fileless or kernel space or sort of hidden, right? You need to think about attack patterns. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for a sequence of events that maybe your EDR or some type of detection rule might be able to trip. So if you have something like, I don't know, like allocate memory, write memory, create thread. Like if you see that happen and maybe it's like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, like if it's like a weird delay or even if it's like abnormal, right? When you're looking at those kind of thread operations, that's not necessarily something good, or at least it could trip an alarm and say, hey, something's weird. Or go back to your SOC 100-2 training, right? We go through the triage and we're looking through persistence, process, and networking level activity. So if you're dealing with something like that might be fileless, well, maybe it has a persistence mechanism. Maybe there's something of a scheduled task or a registry entry that will dial out and connect to whatever it needs to do, load something, then put it in memory, and then it'll go further from there. But even then, when something is live, you still have network activity. There's going to be something that's not normal in networks. So then you need to start looking at network activity indicators to go further from there. So I think there's a variety of things you need to do adjacent to it. You need to look for attack patterns. You need to look for the usual persistence and networking relating activity. And then what are the threat operations happening with processes? That'll kind of like put some alarms out there. And your tools, if they're not detecting it, then you need to start building rules for it. And that's where threat intelligence will come in. And that's what Doug did going to do Lock Shields. He goes there, he kind of gets the feel for it. There's a live attack, he responds to it, and then he can take that back and improve the security of his organization and kind of apply the concepts. And that's why we do these things. So that, I hope that helps easy between Doug's answer and what I'm kind of throwing on there as well.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, obviously, let your bosses, if you're working in SOC, like let your senior analysts know, or your directors or whoever, your manager know, like, hey, I see some suspicious activity on this workstation. Is it okay if I go ahead and just do a live session? Just if you have MDE, you can go ahead and do a live response session, and then you can run through some of these commands. Like you can go ahead. This is not invasive. I mean, it runs a scan, it analyzes. So like even this right here for a live response, it's just analyzing files. It's looking for stuff. There's also a command where it does a scan and it looks for anything malicious. This right here, this command connections shows all the active connections. So you can go in and see on that specific host, is there anything weird? If you list all the directories and the subfolders, then you can go ahead and see, okay, well, is there anything, was there any weird text or any weird files that were dropped in this? Like if you see like a Zeus dash admin, and then you look up like, what is Zeus admin? And then like if you Google it, I think because I've also saw this at the exercise as well. It's an outdated like what was it? It was a lot of Chinese. I use Nmap, blah blah blah, running. It shows that it's outdated. So it's an outdated service for I think creating admins. But if you see anything weird, on the Apache Tomcat servers, if you see anything weird that you Google and you're like, that's weird. Everything is showing that it's outdated. Take screenshots, gather evidence, put it in a document, and then go ahead and say, hey, I found this weird thing. I have all of this evidence. Can I just go ahead and delete it or destroy it? I don't know why it's in there. It's outdated. Like it shouldn't be in there. It's an admin account or something like that. And then most of the senior security analysts will be like, oh yeah, like triage it, find out what it is, make sure it's not legit service that's necessary or critical service on that machine, and then just destroy it. Because you can always restore it from a previous revision. So you always have that previous revision, as long as you're not like affecting like parent processes. Like if you do that on like a firewall and you destroy like the snort process, well, you just messed up the IPS function for a firewall, for Cisco FTD. So research, gather like evidence, make sure you do screenshots of things that's suspicious, and then research, find out if it is legit, if it's sketchy. Provide that information to senior personnel or managers, and then if you have the go ahead, just destroy it, blow away. This can also help you find the files, get files, and then instead of for shell and bash commands, how I was talking about kill and then space -9 and then the PID. It's Microsoft is a little bit weird. They like to be proprietary in their rules. So instead of that, they call it remediate. So this is the same thing as like killing a process. So remediate process with specific PID. So you just do remediate process and then the PID number instead of the kill -9. Or if it's a specific path like this, what it will do first is it will scan it and it will check to see if it's malicious, and then it will remove it and delete it. But the only problem with remediating files and directories in this instance that I've come across is that sometimes it doesn't think it's malicious. If the MDE sensor doesn't think it's malicious, but it's malicious, then that's where you have to, do manual controls and actually go in there and just destroy it. So you would do a dir, you would do CDs, you would go ahead and grab it, and then you could either throw it into MDE under settings and indicators, and then you could just put it as, hey, this is a indicator of compromise, block it. And then that's a manual way of putting it in there and bypassing live response commands, or instead of remediating it. Or you just go ahead and RDP into that specific machine, go into that location and destroy it, like manually just wipe that directory if it's bad. But MDE's thinking like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. You see a name, it's system _ space 32.exe. Like, what? No, that's not right. Like, why are you saying it's right? So then take manual action. So yeah, makes sense.
Cool.
Everybody tracking?
Yeah. I think we're all tracking. Good discussion, good question over there from Easy. I think it's important to consider, and that's what Doug's doing, right? So what you're seeing now is the threat hunting aspect. Is if you don't have something common like a hash or something you can scan and work with, well, you need to start looking at like the reflective activity. What are the patterns? What are the recorded logs? What is the what's the stored memory that we can extract, etc. And that's what Doug's kind of diving into now, is looking at these commands. What else can we glean? What can we gather? And their scheduled tasks. I see the persistence right there. So yeah, cool.
Yeah. If you guys don't have any questions, Anthony, you have any last minute stuff?
I think no. Is that? I think that's it, right? Like we're coming up in time.
Yeah. We're at 53. Yeah. So yeah, I'll just add some more to the live response and and stuff like that, and add some more information here. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any other information, if you guys have questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me, Anthony. I think the lessons learned, the main takeaways is gather all of your evidence as much as possible first, so you know where all of the threats are. Once you've gathered your evidence and you have screenshots, you have proof of it, come up with a game plan. Start prioritizing, like, what is the highest priority threat that you have to deal with, and then isolate that threat, stop that threat, kill that connection, and then start working from there. Have your own mental personal checklist. Go through, like, okay, am I looking for active connections? Am I looking for shells? Okay, well, if I isolate this machine, it's going to kill the shells. It's going to kill that connection. Did they already inject something to maintain foothold, or did they compromise an admin account on this machine? Okay, now I have to deal with that next. Did they drop any payloads after they created this admin account? Well, I destroyed the admin account. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and deal with the payloads and the executables on that machine. And then you just keep going from there. Have your own mental checklist so you're hitting everything. And then take screenshots, gather your evidence as you're going through it. Communicate with your team, other senior analysts, and just have fun. Try to be a bad guy. Try to be malicious. I mean, do it in a safe way, but be malicious. Be evil. So you understand what the bad guys are thinking, because I guarantee you they are 10 times harder than you think they are, and they are intense. I mean,
and dirtier.
Exactly. Just
not playing by the rules.
Pick my brain, pick Anthony's brain. Reach out to pen testers or red teamers on LinkedIn. I mean, most of us are more than willing to talk about, oh yeah, you want to learn? Cool. You got 30 minutes? Awesome. Let's talk. What do you want to learn? So we're more than willing to help you guys and tell you guys hey, this is what I know, and then it gives you a better perspective of, maybe I should start thinking like this if I want to start seeing the attacks and start being more in tune to in the case of attack, in the case of compromise, before it happens. Kind of like a chess game. You're thinking ahead before the attacks start, because once it hits, if they get in, you may be going against a nation state hacker or APT, and you may not win. So
yeah, I think that's a good point, Doug. Is just instead of trying to rely on I need to follow the script, I need to take this course, I need to watch how what a defender is doing, kind of thing. Maybe just ask yourself. That's what Doug is trying to allude to, is if you wanted to bypass something, if you wanted to break in, if you wanted to dodge detections, what would you do? And if you don't know, just start thinking about it and then start researching how detections work and how you can bypass them or how you can get around them. And that level of creativity is sort of a launch point from what Doug is teaching you here today. The walkthrough that he did with the attack of deploying Meterpreter, running commands, getting the keylogger and keystroke initiation executed, and these remote commands. Once upon a time, someone thought about that and said, like, how do I create this type of remote connection where I am now going to send commands to the workstation that that a user would do, like going to google.com. So how do I do this? Like, how do I build that tool to be able to do that? And they did. And that's how we have Meterpreter and all these tools that exist today. So there's nothing stopping you from going further from here. It's just thinking on it critically, creatively, and what you would do. Think about what you would not expect. And kind of a last point to all that is the threat hunting aspect that Doug is talking about over here is something that we mention a lot, is that triage set of steps. So when you don't have an indicator staring at you in the face, what are the various other ways that you can collect telemetry, data, metrics, etc., from your network and from your endpoints to support and corroborate that something happened? And you may not have a direct thing telling you something is wrong, like that exact entry point, but you might have an unusual spike in traffic, a system that's rebooted a couple times, a user that's logged in the evening when they shouldn't be. And when you kind of stitch all those points together and you get enough dots to form a line, then you're going to be able to find something when it's not so obviously staring at you in the face. I think that's what Doug's trying to mention to you over there, is looking around what's obvious, and that's where you start getting into the threat hunting world. And that adversary emulation that Doug is mentioning is go and execute an attack and then observe what happens, like in the logs, the network activity, the registry. Go and see what happened in those areas after you downloaded and ran a safe piece of malware. Go and observe all the different entries. And then those entries is what you need to look for in these advanced attack patterns, really. So that's it. Doug, thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That was awesome, man. Yeah, that was really good. I really liked seeing all that live. It's awesome having the setup over there. So you actually got to attack the victim and demonstrate live what's actually happening. So that was really cool. We need to do more of these. Yeah. So thank you, man, for putting this together. Thank you for being involved with the course and spending a lot of time preparing this and then delivering it live on a Sunday as well too, and taking time. I know that there was some good chatter and questions and comments here that I think the students really appreciate as well too. We clocked in quite a few viewers on this stream as well too. A lot from X Twitter, quite a few actually. So that's interesting. That's a new level of audience. So yes, thank you all.
Bad guys just trolling us.
Yeah, maybe seeing what we're up to. But thank you to everyone in chat, all the viewers, all the supporters. Thank you for the subs that came in. I saw some cheers coming in on Twitch as well too. So thank you for the support and for spending your time with us here on Sunday and engaging with us. We're only able to do this here because of all of you. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks, guys.
That's all I've got. Doug, anything else you want to plug or add over there? Cool.
It's awesome. I always look forward to, the invites, you having me on. I love it. Yeah, I'm excited. Anthony is like an awesome host, awesome guy. So definitely props to him. But yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out to us if you guys have questions. Always here. We're going to have awesome, great content coming for you guys soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we've got something that we're cooking up over here between Doug and I, and maybe a certain Kumo as well too that on our Discord. So yeah, stay tuned. We got something we're planning around this. But yeah, hit us up in Discord. we're going to be around. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everyone in chat. Have a good rest of your Sunday and week, and we'll see you on the next set of streams coming up. Not this next weekend, but the weekend after that. So we've got a little bit more coming up after, because it's the long weekend. So yeah, May 31st, I think is the next one with pen testing.
Ooh.
We got some pen testing and red teaming coming up. And then, let me double check what that one is.
I think.
Yeah, May 31st, pen testing and AppSec. Sorry.
Yep.
And then we got reverse engineering on June 1st. So stay tuned.
I introduced you guys to it. There you go. Segue.
Yep.
Got you guys.
This is a good stream to set you up for all of it. Cool. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you then. See you in Discord. If you have anything in the meantime, reach out to us. We're happy to help out.
Yeah.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.